Yo, what is up, everyone? We're doing my first live stream here, and I figured since I did a Spright profile, I could do some test hands, 'cause I've never done a live video before. So I figure why not go ahead and do one? Like, no better time, right? So I guess we're just gonna do some test hands. I'll leave my tokens out of here. You guys already know what I look like anyways. But the list is definitely different from what I was playing before, like the profile that I got second at locals with. So I figure I'll just show you guys the list so you can see the list as to how I'm toying around with it. I kind of went off of Joshua Schmidt's list from Euros because I liked his list. So I'm gonna grab these engines and just separate everything so all of you can see just exactly what I'm doing here. So one of the big takeaways that I personally found was the whole removal of a lot of hand traps and the lack of dupe frogs that were being played. That to me was a very large takeaway, kind of really went in depth as to some of the reasons why that we were seeing that. So it was nice to see everyone talking about why those are being changed up. But yeah, let's go ahead and just pull this stuff apart. Grab all the starters and things like that. There we go. There are the things that start our combos up. Get all the good cards out, I guess. Let's see. There's Dark Rulers. Over there. Mine. These. Econ. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So, essentially, the list is set up to go first or second, obviously, but we're just going to assume that we lose the dice roll. That seems to be one of the big things, one of the important things. So, like, that to me is just something where I'm like, all right, I want to be able to go first or second. Like, I don't want the dice roll to dictate whether or not I'm winning or losing game one. So, like, the Sprite stuff, we're playing the same ratios from before. We're just playing the 9 because you don't have to play more than 9. Like, the 9 is perfect. So, like, that's good. We got the Divas, the Swaps, the Ronins. Yeah, it was a pretty nice V3. I love Spellgrounds. Everyone, like, always says I have pretty nice Spellgrounds. But we got the Divas and the Swaps. And then the one thing that I opted to do, and I thought this was important, was play the Gammas and the Driver. And the reason that I thought this was important was obviously because, like, it cuts your opponent off from certain things, which is important. But additionally, when I played at locals, this was one of the best cards in my deck strictly because of E-Telly. Like, E-Telly alone, like, with any kind of Sprite card or level 2 normal summon, is basically a disgusting combo. Because you just get to go off with your gigantic sprites and your sprite elves, and you go off with Hulk as well. So yeah, I think that Gamma and Driver should be played regardless of whether or not you're going for like a blind second build with just board breakers. So, like, for me, having the starters with the E-Tellys and the actual starters was important, so I kind of went with it. But then, like, going second stuff, obviously, like, I just went ham, just like I saw on Joshua Schmidt's list. Like, I think that playing a bunch of going second cards is awesome. Like, I love all these cards. I think that all of them are fantastic. I don't know what this is. Oh, I got a bug that's just flying around my room. That was interesting. I'm not a bug person, so that was fun. But yeah, So board breakers, pretty darn important if I do say so myself. Like these cards just put in so much work. So yeah, I think that those are important. The 2 econ, the starter, the call by, and the feather duster. Like this stuff is pretty important. Econ is actually like really solid in the mirror, especially like this card in the mirror is nuts, like absolutely nuts. So, but yeah, so basically the list is built to really go first or second now. Like before I was doing hand traps, now I'm doing board breakers with just gammas. And I think that it's fantastic. So the cool thing is too, like one thing that I've been really going hard on is like being able to stop my opponent with mine and then making like a Zeus and then wiping the board, because that's like pretty nuts. But yeah, I'm just gonna shuffle this up and we'll do some test hands. I'm not going to say that it's going to be necessarily more so going first or going second. Like it's going to be a mix of both most likely. So like we'll just assume that we're going first or second, like depending on the hand, which I think is kind of a good thing to do. Like you really want to be able to identify going second hands and how to break boards, especially in a format like this. Like this is a format where you're gonna have to break stuff. Like there's no way around it. Like it's just what you have to do. Like literally what you have to do. But we'll go ahead and mix this. And the list is 40 exact right now with what I'm testing, which is obviously pretty nice. So like 40 cards is good. Like I like 40. So that should be mixed up now. We'll just draw 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So going first or going second, this is a really, really good hand. It doesn't matter which we do. Like this is insane. Going second, like we just dark ruler them, which is obviously fine. We'd also have a 6th card if we were going second, which is a diva, which that actually makes this hand even more cracked. This hand is like straight up just nuts, absolutely nuts. But like let's say we're going first. Obviously we have 2 cards that going first aren't as useful, but we still have a crazy combo with the Itelli and the Ronins and the swap. Like that's actually like disgusting. So yeah, like you can obviously do combos where you special the swap by pitching the Ronin, and then you get to dump another copy of swap. And then depending on which route you want to go, you could Itelli here. And there are a lot of things that you can do once you get the gamma out. So your gamma hits board and you have the option of like linking off immediately, or you could just like keep trying to combo off with like Ronins and swaps. But your best bet is probably to start with like the Hulk stuff. So like you can do the Hulk stuff, or you can do the gigantic Spright. So if you do the gigantic Spright, which we'll do instead, because I think the gigantic Spright is a bit better. You do the gigantic Spright, you detach the swap. That's as long as it resolves, obviously. And then you make the blue, and then blue triggers to search for your jet. You special jet, and then jet searches for, in this case, like I think starter is good because we can combo more, which obviously comboing more is always better. Like we always want to combo. So you can do the starter here if you want to, or you can save it for later in the turn depending on what you're going for. But like you can obviously link stuff off here, and you can make your elf at whatever point you'd like. So your elf hits board, then you can starter, or you could starter beforehand. It really doesn't matter, unless like you're really worried about nib, which at this point you shouldn't be because we gigantic sprited, so it doesn't matter. But that is pretty good because now we have a red out, which is obviously very strong. We could wait until our opponent's next turn, like summon another blue, but I don't see a point in doing so. But then elf can bring back your swap, and you can use swap if you want here, or if you like, because we're not playing dupe, so we send the swap. I apologize if you guys hear barking in the background. My dog is losing her mind. She's like, I swear, she's like a crackhead. Like this dog is just absolutely insane. But we'll go ahead and cut this up. So, like, the cool thing is that Ronin is basically a recurable resource at this point. So we banish to summon this, and then these can get linked, and you can make like an IP. And then you can banish on the other swap here to summon the Ronin back out, and then you can make a Toad. So, like, this is really crazy for obviously a lot of reasons. The red really isn't doing much now, but the like it will on your opponent's turn. It can. It doesn't mean necessarily will, but it definitely can. So you have the option of doing like multiple things here, because on your opponent's turn, obviously we have the Toad negate. We're not playing dupe, so we won't be summoning dupe. But we have the Toad negate, which the Toad negate would allow us to also add back either our swap or our Ronin. So we'll get the swap back. If we had like a Diva engraved, you add back Diva. And once again, I apologize if anyone can hear my dog in the background. She like I'm genuinely wondering why no one is getting her to be quiet. But yeah, she's just gonna go off. So now Elf has the option of either bringing back Toad or bringing back another level 2. If you bring back any other level 2, you contribute it with red. So like if you bring back blue, blue can search for Jet. And then you can use red to tribute blue to negate a monster effect. And then you also have the option to IP during your opponent's turn, and whether you use IP in red to go into a unicorn, or you use IP in Elf to make Avermax is totally up to you. You kind of have to gauge whatever your opponent is going for. But basically you've gotten Swap back and Jet back, which that's if you bring back the blue with the Elf and not the Toad. Because obviously you can get the Ronin back with the Toad if you wanted to. But like you have so many different interruptions, and that was off of 3 cards. That was off of these 3 cards. Like we opened up double Dark Ruler, Ronin, Swap, and E-Telly, and that got us like so many interruptions. So yeah, like that to me is just crazy. Like that's one of the reasons that I'm playing this deck right now, because you really don't need a lot to combo, and you can find a lot of interesting and intricate plays that just kind of like work. And like to me, that's something that I look for. Is I look for something that's going to have a lot of playability over the course of time. It has a pretty strong grind game, things like that. To me, grind game is almost everything. So like I play Burning Abyss, like everyone knows that I play Burning Abyss. So when I play something like BA, one of the major things that I'm looking for is a way to just grind my opponent out to where they can't play the game anymore. Like they're just out of resources. And a lot of times that's Zeus and Burning Abyss. Like Zeus is really the game changer for the deck. Whereas this deck, it's negations and just recurring resources. So opening 5 cards, this is basically the same hand, just better. Like literally, and if we go second, we draw Dark Ruler going second. Like this hand is crazy. This is why this deck is so good. Like Ronin Swap, and then 2 extenders and 2 cards going second. Like this is crazy. I don't know how much more I can really you know, explain how crazy this deck is, but yeah, like I think that like having something like this, actually I'm gonna check something. 1 second. I'm in my settings right now. I'm just gonna enable flash. This will probably make things look a little cleaner. But yeah, so like going first, we can obviously set up a crazy board, but we'll play it as if we're going second. We've got the Dark Ruler, so like we Dark Ruler their board if we're playing the mirror, or anything that has a bunch of negates up. So they get Dark Rulered, cool, that's great. Now we pitch the Ronin, special the swap triggers to send another swap. From here, once again, we could do what we did last time, and we could E-Telly. We could also just like go directly into a Toad to stop any possible monster effects. So like we could banish a swap, summon the Ronin, and then these can become a Toad like right away. Which if you're worried about your opponent using something from their hand, because keep in mind we Dark Rulered them. If you're worried about your opponent using something in hand, then obviously making the Toad isn't a bad idea, because then we can go starter, and starter gets blue, and then blue searches Jet. You special the Jet, and then you get to add the Smashers, which is spot removal, which obviously is very useful. And then from here you can E-Telly into the Gamma. Like, this is why this deck is insane. Like, absolutely crazy. Like, it's just crackhead energy. Like, this deck is your crackhead energy. So, like, these can link. You can make a Hulk. Hulk can trigger. You can summon, like, Diva. Or another Gamma. Like, in this situation, it's probably better to go Gamma. Because you really don't need it at this point. And then, like, you can overlay these two. And you can make, like, a gigantic Spright. Or, what would be a good idea, seeing we're going second, we want to break the board. It's not a bad idea to overlay the Hulk with the Gamma and make the Spright, because now he's going to be 32. You use his effect, you get rid of the Gamma, you keep the Hulk, and then you summon what you need here. So, like, it's kind of up to you, but you summon something that, like, you're not going to think is as useful. So let's just get the Carrot out, because it's another extender. So Carrot hits the board. From here, we can, depending on what our opponent's playing, obviously makes a world of difference. So, like, we could start to break their board apart and then work from there, which is kind of neat. Like, if you're playing in the mirror, one of the things that I would strongly recommend in the mirror is that if you Dark Ruler them, you drop the Smashers, you get rid of a starter, and you get rid of, like, a Jet, because you play 3 of them. And then you banish their Toad. Like, that to me is very important. Like, a very, very important play. And then from there, if you wanted to, like, because you're not going to get any damage on board. You could enemy controller. I don't see a reason in enemy controllering here. I think it's better to hold off on it. So, like, to me, these get linked off and they make an elf. After, like, you swing through stuff if you want to. Obviously, it's dependent on whether or not you're swinging through anything. If you're not, then it doesn't really matter. But let's say we've swung through whatever. Now we make an elf, and elf can summon back whatever we need to summon back. Like, in this case, you can summon Carrot back. If you had summoned red, it would be a red. Like, it's totally up to you. But, like, then during your opponent's turn, we could have Econ set, and then we can bring back the blue, and blue could search for another copy of Jet. That way we have more on our turn, like, follow up on our turn. And then, like, Carrot is a spell negate. Toad negates and then adds back the swap, which now we have swap Jet in hand, which is good. And then elf can bring back the Toad. Toad can negate again, and we can add back the Ronin. And then we can, like, if we have to, we can Econ tribute the Carrot to steal something for the turn. That way they can't extend. Like, that's crazy. Like, absolutely crazy. You go second, you Dark Ruler them, you break their whole board, and then they can't play the game on their follow-up. Like, that's actually insane. So, yeah, because we're going to have a full negate board, and they're going to have nothing, because we're going to have had cleared all of their cards off the field. And we were able to, like, establish enough cards in hand to combo off the following turn and basically OTK the next turn, which is crazy to me. So yeah, like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, one of the big reasons that I'm playing this is because it's very simple. Like, this is basically rank 2 BA. Like, that's the best way I could put it, is that this is rank 2 Burning Abyss. You spam the board, you get a bunch of stuff out. Even though Tier Limits has the milling aspect, like, this is still crazy. So here we have a pretty good board going first or second. If we go second with this, there's a line that, like, we can really do things with. This is not a Mermail profile. There is a Deep Sea Diva, but this is not a Mermail profile by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, so essentially going first, we can go off with the Diva, and even if they, like, Veil or Ash Impermit, we just special the Jet grab starter, and things like that. So, like, going first is crazy. Going second, we would draw into Gamma for turn, which isn't, like, that good, because we do have to summon to get anything going. But at the same time, like, if we went second and we normal Diva and we activate the effect and they try and negate it, we get enemy controller tribute, and if they have another monster negation for the enemy controller, we can chain the Gamma. So that's the only implication in which it is good. But we'll assume that we go first here just because. So we normal the Diva triggers and goes off, and we will get the other Diva from deck. So now we can do a multitude of things. I think that specialing Jet is probably a good idea, because then Jet will grab starter. Like I would grab starter here and use it, because I can get blue, and then blue can search for red. And now that we've got red in hand, we can special it out. And the special of the red stops us from like getting nibbed right here, so that's pretty cool. Then like Diva and Jet link off, and yeah, they become Halcify Rex. I'm not playing the Synchro package in this that I was playing from the other day. I opted to throw in the Area and the Avermax. But by all means, if you want to play the Formula and the Arclight, go for it. I still think that's actually really crazy. But your health goes off, and in this situation, getting Gamma out is probably your best bet, because you're probably not going to be resolving a Gamma for the duration of the game. So from here, we can do what I would recommend is making your Gigantic Spright and getting your Toad out. So your Gigantic Spright goes off, or I'm sorry, your Swap Frog, not your Toad. But your Swap hits board, and Swap dumps the Ronin. And then you can start to link stuff off. You could also, like, you could have also done this too. You could have had the, I think we had what, the Diva and the Gamma that were made for the Gigantic Spright. You could have kept like the Gamma here, and you could have overlaid the Hulk and done that. There's obviously a lot of lines that you can go into, but in this case, we're going to link the Hulk and the Swap off. Like it gets you to the same spot pretty much. And then your elf brings back your Swap. Your Swap triggers, and you get to send another Swap because we've already got the Ronin. And then after that, the blue and the Gigantic Spright become your IP. And at that point, you can banish the Swap, summon the Ronin. These two do become the Toad, and then you special the Carrot, set the Econ. So, like, yeah, this is Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2022. Like, this is a disgusting board, like a really disgusting board. And, like, you obviously Toad negate, add back the Swap. And like you can either do red or carrot on one or the other. If you need to bring back the Toad with the elf, you can. If you need to bring something else back, like you don't need to add like more gas back to your hand from grave. Like you don't need the Jet back, you don't need the blue back. If you feel that you want them, go for it, but like you're gonna be able to combo off on your next turn, so there's not really a point. So like when you add the Swap Frog back with the Toad, at this point, like you should be considering just bringing back the Toad again, getting another negation and adding the Ronin back to hand just to like continue your plays. So, like that's perfectly fine. Then you just use whatever one you need. Let's assume that's the red and we tribute the carrot. And then you can always IP with the elf if you want, or you IP with the carrot, depending on what you're going for. If you're going for unicorn, obviously use carrot. If you're going for Avermax, then, you know, once again, the elf and the IP become the Avermax. And then we still have the econ set if it's necessary, like we tribute the carrot and or the red, I'm sorry, and we steal their monster for the turn. Then they pass us, we draw, there's a Feather Duster, back row's gone, pitch the Ronin, special the Swap. Then we send the last Swap, which I think, yeah, we still have one Swap. That hits grave, and we banish the Swap, summon the Ronin, and from here we're essentially just off to the races. Like our graveyard is pretty filled up. You could also have, instead of grabbing this, you could have grabbed Diva, but that requires you possibly getting hand trapped on your next turn when you normal it, and I didn't want to do that. So from here, we would just overlay, probably go for the Gigantic Spright, and then the Gigantic Spright will go off. We get to summon a copy of Blue. Blue triggers to add Jet. We special the Jet and we search for starter. And from here, we pretty much just like beat our opponent. Like, yeah, we're just gonna stomp over them. So you can obviously go elf, you can go dark if you need to, but there's not really reason to. You can make a sky cavalry, which is kind of weird. But you could also starter. So we could starter here, and we can get our copy of red to help negate some stuff if need be. So yeah, like you kind of get to freestyle from this point. Like you already got an Avermax on board. Like this is going to be huge. The gigantic Spright is only 16, but still 16 and 3000 is well over half their life. You can always go for elf because they probably still have like monsters on board because you econ their monster, they get it back. So you can summon Spright elf, and you can always bring back Toad, which is pretty darn cool. And then like you can go battle phase here and clear stuff out. Like you just clear stuff out with the Avermax, the Toad. At that point, like the gigantic Spright is just, you know, hitting for damage. So it's like red and elf. Yeah, and then main phase 2, if you need to make something, you can, but I would probably like keep these because you can like use red to negate a monster effect, and then you can elf, bring back something like blue, and blue can search for like a jet, and then you can Toad negate, and Toad can now add back a diva because there's still one left in deck. So on our following turn, we normal diva, and if they hand trap it, we just special jet. If not, we get another diva out, and then we start to combo off again. Like that's that's literally what this deck does. Like this deck just combos. So like I know that there were some people in the community that were trying to charge people like a $50 class to learn how to play this deck. Like, listen, I'm sorry if you can't figure out how to play this deck and you got to pay someone $50 to play it. Like, that's not a good thing. You really should not be paying anyone $50 to learn how to play this deck. I'm doing it for free. I have more than enough regional tops to sit here and teach someone how to play the deck. That's like just absolutely absurd to me that people would charge that much. Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh class. So here's the thing. Like, I fully support like people seeking help and like taking like advice and classes from people who are really good players. Like, I fully advise that. When I started getting into the competitive scene with the game, I had people at the locals that I played at the time who showed me how to properly play the game on a competitive level. And because of them, I made it as far as I did. Like, obviously, I put in a lot of time and effort, but I never sat there and paid someone any amount of money to teach me how to play. I found people who were good players that I befriended. Like, I would never advise paying to learn how to play Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, I don't want to sit there and like knock a bunch of people, because like there are people who are offering these classes who are good players, and I'm not like knocking that at all. But I think the fact that they're trying to charge $50 per person for a 2-hour class to learn how to play a Yu-Gi-Oh deck is actually like ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And like they know who they are, and like there are other people who have like Patreons and stuff like that to learn how to play the game competitively, and like I get it, like they have a market that they're going for, but like I think it's worthless when I can teach people how to play the deck at least like half decently. But I won't rant too much. We'll just get into what everyone's here for. Okay, so going first or going second, this is playable. If we starter and they ash it, we have Gamma, which is just full combo. If we starter and it goes off, then we're good. But here's a cool thing. If we starter, they ash, I chain Gamma, and then I can talents after 2. Like, that's actually, that's really, really busted. Now, if we're going second, we would have a 6th card, which would end up being a copy of Jet, which is actually really good. Because if they have back row, obviously we feather duster it. If they're playing like, if you're playing a mirror, okay, if you're playing a mirror, chances are the only set that they're going to have is Smashers. They might have Econs now because obviously Econ is a tech, but they're probably not going to negate this. Like, there's a pretty strong chance they won't negate this. So you Feather Duster them, and they're like, okay, whatever. Like, I just don't get a banish now. And then you drop mine, and then they're like, Toad negate, and you're like, sure, chain starter, and then like you just get to play. Or you're like, chain gamma, and then you're good. Like, you can do whatever. So like they go Toad negate and you go gamma. You go ahead and you've already gotten rid of their Smashers because you Feather Dustered it, and they're like, oh, okay, I can deal with not having a banish. Now you get this out, and like, what do they do? What do they do? Like, because you can end your turn, these get banished, or the smart thing to do, you can link these. After you link them, you get your Hulk, then your Hulk goes off, and at this point we're probably not going to use another gamma, so yeah, we just summon a gamma. And from this point, their Toad is gone, and they probably have 3 monsters on the board if they're playing Spright. Like, they probably, like, they got rid of the Toad. Usually, like, the good end boards end on 4, so like they still can't do anything because of mine. So like, you could special Jet, which would in theory like trigger their monsters to be able to be activated at that point, because you'd be up to 3 monsters, which we'll assume they also have 3. So like, one of the things that you can do, and this is something that I've really been like trying to show people about, is that like you overlay here for Gigantic Spright, because this will be at 32 because of the Hulk. And you can do this, believe it or not. This is something you can do. And you swing, and then main phase 2, you can do like a Downerd into a Zeus, which is nuts. And then you just wipe the board. Your mind goes, but their whole field goes, and then you just go starter. And when you go starter, like, that gets you blue. Blue searches for red. So red goes to hand. You special red. And then you special Jet, and Jet searches for Smashers because we already used a starter this turn. You could, in theory, grab another starter if you wanted to. But like, that hits board. From here, you can link these 2. That's Jet and Blue. Not Jet Blue, the airline, but then you make Elf, or depending on what your opponent has in Grave, because you broke their board, you can make Dark. You can summon one of their cards from Grave, and you can always link off from there. But that's kind of your choice, because then whatever you summon, you can use it with the red to make Elf, and then Elf can bring back like a red, and then if you wanted to, you could link these off. I don't see a reason to, but you could link them off, and like, you set Smashers and you can pass. Like, this is actually a really good board still. Like, this is really good because you can go Elf to bring back Blue. Blue searches for Jet. You can use red to tribute this to negate. You can Smashers, banish your starter from Grave, banish the red to banish one of their cards. And then if that's not enough, you just Zeus the board. And like, what do? Yeah, like, that's that's why this deck is crazy. Like, there are so many interruptions that you can pull off, and no one can really stop the number of interruptions you have. So like, to me, I really view this deck, and I'm like, wow, this is the best deck in the room. Like, honest to God, like, this is the best deck in the room. People are like, oh, well, Rika won the Euro Nats. Like, yeah, yes, it did. Good for them. But I'm sorry, that deck is not the best deck in the room. Spright is a significantly better deck than that deck, and I would bet so much money on that, because like, it's just so consistent. Like, this deck is ridiculously consistent. Don't get me wrong, the Rika stuff is too. Like, if you get just Loki, like, that's plant combo. But like, to me, I think that the deck is just like slightly flawed. Like, the Rika deck is like decent. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say that the Rika deck is bad, because it's not bad. Like, I just think that the Rika deck has certain things that Spright doesn't. and like to me, like Spright is just insane. So looking at this hand is probably the worst one that we've seen so far for going first. It still functions because you can go normal Ronin, special carrot, make gigantic, and go like swap combo. So you still end on like elf toad, which is good. But going second is not bad either because we draw the 6th card. Of course, I think 3 times that I've drawn the 6th card in this video already, it's been Dark Ruler. Like when I go second with this deck, this card is glued like to my hand. Like I draw this card every game, which is fantastic. That's obviously what I want to do. But yeah, like going second, this hand just got even better because we can Dark Ruler them, and then we just sit there and we just like wreck them. But if we're going first and we normal Ronin and we special carrot and we make gigantic, I'm just gonna run this through. So this is like a standard line. If you get 2 level 2s onto the field, this is your standard line for people who don't know. You would use the gigantic and you would summon the swap. Now in this case, we already had the Ronin, so this is a slight shortcut because normally when the swap is summoned the first time, you dump Ronin. But seeing we already have it there, we just send a swap. And from here, you can do one of 2 things. You can either banish the swap to summon the Ronin, because we're going to be able to summon this swap back. So essentially what we do is this would hit board, and then these 2 make your elf, and then elf brings this back, and then you dump the 3rd swap, bring this back, and make toad, and you still have the gigantic on board, which is pretty good. Or you have this on board, this still engrave, and then you link these 2 for the elf, and then you go off from there. Essentially, you'll end on a toad that an elf points to, which is pretty powerful, and you'll have most likely a spare body on board. I think keeping the gigantic is obviously a pretty good bet. But like going second, obviously we saw that I would have had Dark Ruler, and I also had mine, and I also have talents. So like going second, there's more than enough to do. Like you can do so much going second with this deck too, just as much if not more than what you can do going first. Going first, you just set up like these big negation boards, but going second, like this deck literally will break your opponent's board to the fullest extent. That's one of the things I love about it. I like breaking boards. That's been something that I've always been at least half decent at. So yeah, so we've got opening Ronin isn't good unless the swap is there, obviously. But here, like we could normal Ronin, like if we're going first and you special the jet, or you can start or whatever. Going second, we draw talents, which talents and Dark Ruler, like we just got it. Like that's easy. This is easy board clear. So yeah, like I see this as like literally one of the best possible things that you could do. So like I just think that this is fantastic. Yeah, so I'm just reading through chat real quick. Let's see. Well, hopefully everyone's enjoying this so far. This is obviously a lot of fun for me, being able to actually do a live. Like I've never done a live before, but we'll assume that we're going first here. So yeah, like I think that this is something that I should do more often. I should go live a little more often, because I think that it gives people a better opportunity to ask me questions and like have an open panel as to like what the answers are, rather than me just commenting on a video. Because unfortunately, when I comment and reply back to people in a video, sometimes the message I'm trying to get across doesn't come off as clearly. So I think it's easy for me to explain over video and do lives and stuff like this, but I'm literally rambling when I could be comboing. But yeah, so normal Ronin, special jet searches, we grab smashers because we already have starter in hand. I was actually, you know what I was doing? I was reading the other Spright spell card. I think it's like Gamma Burst. I probably have it around here somewhere. I have a bunch of like stuff over here. Let me grab that real quick because I'm pretty sure it's over here in one of my piles. I won't show anyone my piles of cards that I have because it's just like a bunch of a bunch of stuff thrown in a pile. But like this is like some of the random stuff I have. This card, Gamma Burst. Like this card, I read this card, and non-ironically, I want to play one of it. Like it's obviously like the wrong choice for a card, but this card is literally like honest for your whole board. Like your whole board basically just gains points, like 1400 attack and defense until the end of the turn. Like that's an OTK. That's an OTK. Like I thought about playing it because we search Jet so much. Like we could just grab this card and just swing and just wipe our opponents. But yeah, like I was thinking about that. Peep the Beckoning Beast engine. I thought about playing that. The other Smashers. But yeah, I also like was looking at the Pit Knight early, Nightmare Phoenix, the Djinn Buster, and the Onibimaru or Onibimaru, however you pronounce that card. Soul Sweeper. We'll just call it Soul Sweeper. Pixies, that probably won't get played. I was playing 3 red for a while. But yeah, I just have a bunch of like cards that are always laying around that, well, what usually happens is, for anyone who doesn't know my deck building process, is that I build my decks every single day. Like I work 40 hours a week. I get home from work at the same time pretty much every single day, and I literally like grab cards, put something together, draw test hands for a few hours, eat food, draw more test hands, and then go to bed. And then I wake up and I do the same thing all over again, basically Monday through Friday. Obviously right now with, you know, many people knowing that I am in the course of planning a wedding, that does, you know, change a little bit. But we'll get back to the comboing here. Essentially what I'm saying is that my life isn't always giving me the opportunity to just draw my Yu-Gi-Oh hands every single day. But we can overlay these, we can link these, whatever you want to do. We have the starter, so we can always go starter effect, which is fine. Like we're going first in this instance, so we don't have to sit there and be like, oh no, like what if they do this, what if they do that. Like we do this, we get out blue searches for red, because it's going to protect us here, because our 5th summon is going to be Gigantic Spright, which we don't want to get hit with like a nib on that. So this all goes here, this goes to grave, we special the red. You could also, like, you could hold the red. So here's the thing, you hold red and you just go into your Gigantic, and then from that point, like, your opponent's not gonna be able to do something like a nib after you use the Gigantic Sprites effect. So like you can do that, but if you're like, oh, what if they have Ash or Veiler or something, then like that's why it's like, hey, it might not be bad to have the red on field. But yeah, so essentially you get Gigantic to go off here, and you get your swap. Swap triggers to dump another swap, because we already have the Ronin, which, like, in this deck, drawing Ronin is not actually a brick. Like, back in the day, you drew it in Paleo Frogs, and you're like, oh man, like, I didn't want to draw that, I want to dump it. But in this deck, perfectly fine, doesn't matter. So from here, we can link these two off, and we'll make our elf. Elf can, like, we can combo off harder here, so we summon the swap back, and then the swap dumps the last swap. And the reason that we would do something like this is because we can banish the swap, summon the Ronin, then these two become IP. Then we banish the 3rd swap to summon the Ronin back, and then that makes Toad, and then we special red. So for anyone who's watching, wondering, how do I beat this? Well, it's not easy. But we could also set Smashers, and then we pass our turn. So, like, this is crazy. This is obviously a really, really good board. And because we're not playing dupe, we're not going to lose to Super Poly for the most part, which is good. It's obviously a good thing. We don't want to lose to Super Poly. But yeah, so oh, look at that, Phil's in here. Hi Phil. PJC. Phil's one of my best friends. Phil works with me. He works at my job. He works not even 5 feet from me. But yeah, $43 and change. What is the awesome idea? What awesome idea do I have? I've done a lot of comboing here, so I'm not too sure which idea is in fact awesome. But like this board to me is really good. Like I really like this board. I think that it's solid. Especially like having smashers here. Like chances are the red could be used. So I like one of the things I'm really theorizing with this deck is yeah, so like sure, red and elf can be super polyed and it's the same issue. But like I don't care if these get super polyed together. Like that doesn't like worry me too much. And even if it does, it's like big deal. We still have Toad on board. Like and chances are what I like to do, like a lot of people bring back Toad obviously, and that's cool. But I do like to create follow-up. Like I really like to create follow-up. Like that to me is more important than all the negations. Like if I could negate 3 cards and they only have 4 cards to play, like I will go ahead and just negate the 3 and then make sure that I'm recurring whatever. So like obviously the Toad is going to get back like the swap when we tribute it. So we have the option of bringing back the Toad like under Elf's conditions if they're met, or you bring back something like blue. Like I actually really like bringing back blue because then like you just get more level 2s out of it. And then you still have like this is material for Smasher or red. So like you can red tribute this and then you could Smasher banish the starter and banish the red and then you remove their card. And then you still have the IP to go into the Avermax. Like that to me is really nuts. Or you can go into something else. Like obviously there are other cards you can make other than Avermax. But like, yeah, I think that this is overall, like hands down best deck in the room for so many reasons. But like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, like sure, there are other decks in the room that are fantastic. Like Tier Element had an absolutely outstanding weekend at the Euro event, and like that's amazing. I've been trying to craft together a list that I like for Tier Element, but it seems like every single list that I try and craft together is literally like card for card the net deck of at least one list that top 128'd, which to me, let's talk about that for a second. They did top 128, which is very odd. Very odd. It gave people who didn't finish as well in the first 11 rounds, I think they did. It gave the people who didn't do as well a better shot of making a top cut, which was really odd. I've never really seen that before. But I guess the one cool thing about it is that it gave us a lot of decks to see perform at a higher level. So like to me, the higher level stuff is almost more important because like the initial Swiss rounds, obviously they're important. Like the initial Swiss rounds are what makes up your top cut. But when you get to top cut, you see the players actually shift from the Swiss round mindset to the top cut mindset, which are two very completely different things. Like two very different things. So seeing that was actually fantastic. We saw that with Altergeist. Like that was crazy. This may be the first hand that I'm seeing that may end very poorly. Depending on what our 6th card is. So our 6th card is Dark Ruler. Yeah, so this is, so keep in mind, I've done a lot of test hands so far and a lot of draws in this video. This is the first hand that's really not that good. And even this hand isn't terrible. If you're playing the mirror, you can go Dark Ruler if you wanted to, which kind of like shuts things down, which is good because then you just activate mine. And if they don't have smashers, then like you're good. So yeah, like that just hits the board and then you're like, okay, I'll just draw cards until I get something I need. Oh, look at that. The next turn I get a swap and now I can play the game. Like, yeah, so like, to me, I'm looking at it, I'm going, okay, like, sure, we don't have any monster plays turn 1, but we had the Dark Ruler into the mine and that's like more than enough, like well more than enough. So yeah, obviously we would combo off from there. Probably a Zeus play just to wipe their board, because that's going to be very, very easy to access. But like this deck just puts out so much power, which to me is crazy. Here you could go E-Telly, because if they're stupid enough to Ash it, you just Gamma and then you win the game, because you also have talents too. Yeah, Emergency is starter. Like Emergency complete, like 100%, Emergency is just like another way to start your combo. And the fact that like I play Hulk just obviously turbos it even more, because you could summon another Gamma out off of it. Because let's be realistic, once you activate this in hand, there's no use for the driver in your deck anymore. So like you just link this in the driver, you make the Hulk, and then you just summon another Gamma from deck, because you just want to get the Gammas out, pretty much. And then the E-Tellys become discard fodder at that point, or you'd have one Gamma left. So if you draw another E-Telly, then you just get rid of the last Gamma, and then you have one brick in your deck, which is basically how you started anyways, by playing the driver with the Gamma package. So it doesn't change much. Like it really doesn't change that much. So like for me, I would definitely start with the E-Telly, because you hope that they Ash it just so you can go Gamma. Like that to me is really important. Most people aren't going to Ash this. It's just not going to be something that commonly happens. So like your Gamma in hand kind of doesn't do too much, which is fine. But if they do Ash it, then obviously your Gamma pops off. But your Gamma hits board, which is sweet. From here, we can either normal swap or special blue. I think specialing blue is better, because then blue searches for jet or red, whatever you feel you want to grab. I like to grab the jet here, as everyone's been seeing so far, because I like to grab my other spells, and I think that this is better than red, because here we can obviously just go for like Gigantic Spright. We're going first, so like why wouldn't we? And then you just get Gigantic Spright, and normally I would say that you go for swap, but we've already got swap in hand, so we really don't have to do that. You can grab whatever level 2 you want to grab, which is the beautiful thing about this deck. You just grab whatever you need. So in this case, we can grab something like red. So there's a red. Cool. So then from here, we could normal the swap, and swap dumps the Ronin. Wherever it is, there we go. There's Ronin. How's everyone liking the streaming stuff so far? Is everyone enjoying themselves? I see I've got like 7 people watching, so I'm assuming that everyone has to be enjoying themselves at least a little bit. Hopefully you learn something too. That's obviously important to me, is being able to learn something. But from here, your Gigantic Spright and your swap are going to become elf. Then elf is going to bring back the swap, and swap is going to dump another swap. So yeah, it's there. Cool. Just going to check chat again. What do we got? Yeah, if they Ash Emergency, like we just win that trade outright. But like most people aren't going to Ash it, because they're going to be like, oh, I'll just wait for them to summon like Xiamen, and then you summon Gamma, and they're like, what the fuck is happening right now? So yeah, that's pretty cool. But here we can do the Ronin, and then we get the Toad, and like you can make Toad here, but the reason that I leave this zone open for the elf is so I can like link into like IP. But in this scenario, like we can do it. So like let's just assume that we make the Toad here, and we don't make it with the elf pointing to it. So we special the jet triggers, and we get smash or starter, because we haven't gotten to use a starter yet. We got to use E-Telly, which is essentially starter. And from here, these can be linked off if you want to, or you keep the red and then you go for starter. And like Carrot is probably the least useful out of everything. Like it definitely does come up. Not using red sleeves? No, why would I use red sleeves? I don't like red sleeves. I really don't like red sleeves. I don't know why anyone thinks I would be using them. But yeah, we link these off, and we make IP. So now from here, like we're good. We're good. We're all Gucci. We have the negate, which is cool, which adds back the toe or the swap. We have the elf, which in this case, I've gone over this a lot so far. Yes, you can bring back Toad if they have a monster, but if they don't, you bring back blue. And then blue searches, and then you have your follow-up for the next turn with swap and a Spright monster. And it also still gives you the red thing to tribute, so you tribute the blue, negate a monster, and then you can IP into something like Avermax. So yeah, like that's crazy. So yeah, mermail test hands, that's a possibility. I did, I know at the end of the profile that I did for mermails, I showed the Spright combo, which, oh, let me tell you, the Spright combo in mermail, like you rip cards from your opponent's hand and then you Spright combo, like that's, that's insane. That's insane. Like you get to end basically on double Toad, which that alone should be cause for reason for you to be like, oh, I think I should try this deck, because trust me, it's insane. Absolutely insane. Yeah, you can end on 3 Toads. You can end on so many, like you can do so much. And like that's one of the things that I'm trying to show with these test hands is that yes, you can bring back Toad with your elf, but sometimes bringing back other cards is just as good, if not better. And I'm a very, very strong advocate for using IP on my opponent's turn. Like I know a lot of people that I've played against, when I went to locals and I played on Saturday last week, like a lot of people would make IP on their turn. No, these aren't Player's Choice sleeves. These are Dragon Shields. I also do not use Player's Choice sleeves because they wear out way too quickly. And I shuffle cards way too much. And I do not make $1 million a year to buy a new pack of sleeves every single day. Like I would literally have to re-sleeve my deck every single day with how many times I shuffle these cards. That's why I don't use Player's Choice sleeves, because they just wear out. But anyways, I saw a lot of people making IP on their turn to go into something like access code. And they would use 2 link 2s, which would only leave the access code at 43. So I just make my access code at 53 with a Nightmare Unicorn, and I just swing over their access code. So like, to me, I get why they use the IP to make the access code, but I think it's better to like make this card and then on your opponent's turn go into like Avermax. That to me was actually like something that I wanted to do. I didn't have the Avermax for last week's tournament, and my local said they didn't have any, but they ended up having them. But it was a couple days after the tournament that I figured that out. So yeah, but I think making the IP into the Avermax is good, or the Unicorn. I like, because I didn't have an Avermax when I played at locals on Saturday, I did the Unicorn play, and the Unicorn play is just as good, like just as good if not better. At that point you use your red, because you're probably gonna have a red or a carrot, so you use IP and the red or carrot after you've used the red or carrot negate, and then you make the Unicorn, you pitch a card. A lot of times, because I added swap back and had Ronin engrave, I would pitch the swap because I was still gonna get the Ronin during their turn. So like I just would bring the Ronin back, and then the Unicorn and the Ronin make the access code, and then I just have a push. So yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do. The deck is extremely versatile. I have 0 issues with this deck so far. I only bricked 1 game when I played last Saturday, which is fantastic. Like 1 game is not bad at all. This hand is a little awkward, not gonna lie. Not terrible, definitely not terrible. Going second, it's really good because of the Dark Ruler. Like obviously there are gonna be monkey decks like that you're gonna see Eldritch run around, you're gonna see a bunch of other stuff run around that's like a quote-unquote monkey deck, but like as a whole, I don't think that it's like that bad. Also, there's I don't know if anyone can see the bug that's sitting on my mat. It's like that little speck that's in between my field center and my hand. This bug has been like pestering me since I started this live stream, and I don't know what it is, but every time I try and touch it, it like flies away, and I don't want to squish it on my spell ground. Like I really don't want to, but I hate bugs and I want to get rid of it. But we'll, I don't know where he went. He just zipped somewhere. I don't know where he is. He's gone, I think. He's not on me, so I guess that's good. He's trying to get out. I see him. 1 second, guys. We're gonna try and kill this thing if I can. You might hear some hits in the background, maybe. I actually don't know where he went. He disappeared. But if I see him again, maybe I'll get him. But yeah, that was the exciting portion of the video where you get to see me become a hunter. But anyways, if we're going first, like we go for the diva, and diva goes off, which is cool. Because like the thing is, this is important to point out here, okay? So we have Ronin in hand, and if we're normal summoning diva, everyone's like, okay, well, what do we do with Ronin? Like, you have Ronin in hand, how are you gonna get your swap combo going to go into Toad? Basically, you just bring the swap back to hand, and then you pitch the Ronin and a special the swap back out. So what this hand is gonna look like, as long as we go uninterrupted, even if like your opponent ashes this, imprims this, whatever, you still have Jet, and then you're still playing the game. Like you still have everything you need to play the game. It's all there. It's all there. It's playable. This is workable. But we'll assume that we go off without a hitch, and there are no issues whatsoever. So we special Jet. Jet searches for starter. We use starter, summon blue. Blue searches for red. Wherever red is, there we go. We're going back in, so I'm not shuffling that. We special red, then Diva and Jet become Hulk. Hulk summons a Gamma because it's not useful anymore. Okay, so these can overlay, or you can overlay the Hulk with it. It doesn't matter. You make Gigantic, and then Gigantic will go off. Let me just move this a little bit. Then we get to summon Swap. Swap will dump the other Swap. We kind of have the ability to freestyle here a little bit if we wanted to. This can come back to hand, and then we pitch the Ronin to summon it back out. Now you have the option of dumping if you want to. It's not a bad idea because you do get to extend, which obviously the extending is kind of important in this deck. You want to be able to extend as much as possible. So from here, you banish a swap to summon a Ronin. And like what you can do is these two can become a Toad, like this, and then the blue and the Gigantic. Oh, I'm sorry, not the blue and Gigantic. The blue and the Hulk. I messed that up. I apologize. I lost my train of thought for a second. We summon the Elf. Elf can then bring back whatever we want to bring back here. Like, we have options. You could also do combos differently with this. Like, there are more than one way to combo off in that manner. But let's just say we summon like a Jet back or whatever. No big deal. These two then get linked and you make IP. And yeah, this is like the board that I've been going for so much with this variation. Yeah. Yeah. Can everybody else hear the crickets in the background? So it's 11 in Brazil. I'm in the States, and right now it is 10 p.m. So you're only an hour off from me. I know that seems weird because we're on very different portions of the world. I'm on the upper East Coast, in the States, and like, to think that you're only an hour difference is kind of crazy. But yeah, it's definitely relaxing hearing some of the bugs in the background. Hopefully no one gets annoyed by the sound of bugs. See, I like the sounds of like crickets and stuff like that, but the second that there are bugs around me, I don't want to be there. Not my thing. I'm not a bug person. But they sound relaxing. I'll give credit where credit is due. Definitely a relaxing sound. But yeah, so I think that I'm going to do like one more draw with this deck, to show everybody what I would do. it's obviously been a lot of the same thing, as everyone's picked up on by now. But I feel like doing like an hour-long live stream for my first one is probably a good start. And then I have to, once I finish doing this hand, I actually have to go and get all of my stuff prepped for work tomorrow, and then I have to go to bed. So yeah, that's the fun stuff. But yeah, oh, you can't stand bugs either? See, I'm glad that you're not the only one. And guess what I just see in the background? I see my bug friend here that's been annoying me. And we got him, guys. He's done. I hit him. Now he's moving around on my mat. That was not ideal. I killed him with a paper towel thing. All right, I got him. He's gone. We did it, guys. Everyone saw it on stream. Everyone saw it happen. But yeah, let me just shuffle this up real quick again. Sorry, that bug thing was a small victory for me. But we draw our last hand for the video. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Going first or second, we are set. It doesn't matter what we do here. I think everyone, what do I think about heroes? I think heroes are really, really cool. So cool that when I was at Locals the other day, I picked up a package of Mass Change the Second and a Dark Law, because let's just destroy tier elements. Like, that's basically what that's there for. But I think that heroes overall are really cool. I know no one was expecting me to just pull out Mass Change the Seconds and a Dark Law, but like, I feel personally that heroes are interesting. I think that they do kind of lose hard to a lot of decks if you don't have your super poly in your opening hand and you're going second. But if you go first and establish a Dark Law, like, it's pretty good. But anyways, let me just go on with this combo here. That way we can wrap things up. But we going first, like, this is our hand. If we were to go second, the 6th card is Smashers. This doesn't do a lot, but it definitely can do something. Definitely can do a little because we have the Jet. So yeah, like that actually does have a lot of functionality if we go second. Yeah, so either way we're good, but we'll assume we're going first. Because I did a very large amount of going second hand, so I'm gonna show more going first. We normal Diva. If Diva goes off, then we just, you know, full combo, like I've been showing everybody. So this hits the field, and then these link off. Make a copy of Hulk. Hulk triggers and summons a Gamma. We special Jet searches for where is it? There we go. Starter. From here, it's probably a safe bet to go for Gigantic. Like, that's probably what you want to do. Because like right here, this is where they, like, if they're going to be nibbing you, they're like, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, this is like 6 summons. They do it here, and if they do, it's fine because you've got starter. Like, the fact that you have starter just makes it so it doesn't matter if they nib you here, because you summon the Gigantic and they're like, nib, you're like, okay, cool, and then you just go starter and you still win the game. Like, it's perfectly fine. Like, absolutely fine. Doesn't matter whatsoever. So yeah, but we're just going to assume none of that happens because not many people are doing nib stuff. But we can summon the swap, and then we get the swap effect, dump the Ronin. I'm not going to shuffle because I'm probably going back in. This can bounce back to hand, and then we can discard to summon, and then that'll trigger the swap to send another swap. Now keep in mind we still have starter in hand, so there's going to be more that we can do. But we banish the swap, summon the Ronin. These two can turn into an elf. Now we already have all 3 swaps in circulation, so we wouldn't be summoning back swap with Spright Elf. We can summon back Jet if we wanted to, like Jet can hit the board. And then these can turn into an IP. Now keep in mind our opponent can't nib us or anything because we did use Gigantic Spright. So everyone's like, nib! Doesn't matter, nib does nothing. But you make the Ronin back by banishing the swap here. There's your Toad, and then you can always go starter. You can get out blue. and then blue triggers to add red. You summon red, and you set call by. So yeah, essentially what's going to happen here in our grave, we have nothing super crazy, but essentially what happens here is we tribute Toad, Toad negates, can add back swap, or you can add back diva. So we're going to grab swap. I've explained why diva is not the right thing to add. It's because it gets hand trapped, which, like with this, it doesn't matter if it gets hand trapped. You just put it in the grave and then you banish it to summon your Ronin again, and you got 2 bodies out of it still. So that happens. Now obviously you can bring back the Toad, but we've talked about not bringing back the Toad before because of red. In this scenario, it's actually okay to bring back the Toad. Now, why is it okay to bring back the Toad? And it's because we already have something on field for red to tribute. So we can bring this back. We have another Omni negate, and then from here we could add back the Ronin, which gives you a free special summon of swap. So now we've done 2 negations. Your red contribute the blue, that's 3. Your IP can link itself an elf for the Avermax, and we still have call by. Which basically means that our opponent loses the game. Like, all of this essentially amounts up to that. And like that, to me, like, consistency is key. Consistency is very key. And to me, this variation is doing the same exact thing every single game, and I absolutely love it. The one thing that you could change if you're looking at this and you watched Euros over the weekend is that you could just play the beat cop. Like, anyone who watched Euros this weekend knows what I'm talking about with beat cop. Like, beat cop was a crazy card for Mystic Mind in this deck. So, like, that's a very important thing to note. There is stuff like that that's going to come up, and is going to be absolutely insane text that people find out and play pretty consistently. And obviously, like, it's Joshua Schmidt that did it, and he's a fantastic player. You know, props to him for doing so well and piloting the deck so well. I think that that's definitely something to commend him on, because it is not easy to do that well regardless of how good of a player you are. But before I go, I will just check chat one more time, answer any last minute questions. Do I like the Pixie tech? I wouldn't play Pixies. That's just me. I don't think that it's worth playing. I think that the Gamma Burst is a better choice than Pixies, because Gamma Burst just gives you some potential to really just put some damage on board. So yeah, I think that Gamma Burst, the spell, if everyone's familiar with that. I'll grab it one more time over in my stack of cards that I consider playing in my decks. This is Gamma Burst. Gamma Burst, I don't know how clear this is going to be. Hopefully you guys can read that. So basically everything that you play, because your deck is essentially all level 2s, rank 2s, and link 2s, are going to gain 14 attack and defense to the end of the turn. Like, and it's a quick play, so you do it during damage step. During damage step, you're just like, hey, by the way, I'm just going to honest you, but not just for one monster. My entire board is now under honest. Or I guess the better example, I think, would be Kalut. Yeah, Kalut, because I think that Kalut gave the Black Wings 1400. So, yeah, this card I'm actually contemplating playing. Like, I'm not going to lie. You might see it happen. You might see it happen. Another thing that I wanted to point out before, and this is the last thing I'm going to talk about before I go. Let me just put my stack of cards back right here. This deck, like, if you were to play pure Spright, and you were to play, like, a cheap version of it, like, you didn't get blues, you didn't get, like, Toad or anything like that, I feel like the deck can still function. Like, honest to God, I feel like this deck could still function if you did that, like, which is insane. Because starters, I think, are only like $8 now. Like, if you don't have the money to get blues, you can play other stuff. Obviously, it's not as good because you don't have blue. But, like, if you're a budget player and you really want to play a good deck, like, and you can get, like, 1 blue per paycheck, then you could play a lower cost version of this deck and still probably have it work. It's not going to be great, but it's still going to do something. But yeah, that's the first stream. I hope everybody enjoyed it. You know, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, try Sprite is definitely viable with one blue. But yeah, like I hope everyone enjoyed this. If everyone wants to see me do more stuff like this in the future, then obviously let me know, because I am definitely open to doing more live streaming like this. Will I be at YCS Niagara? No, I will not. I will not be at YCS Niagara. Sadly, now this is sadly, this is the last thing before I gotta go, because I gotta make all my food for tomorrow. I will not be at YCS Niagara, and as far as competitive events go, even regionals, I am essentially not able to play in any large competitive events this season. Reason being is that I have stuff going on every single weekend that there is a large event happening, and I did not plan it that way on purpose. It just happened, and then I went to go look at the regional schedule to see where I can go and play, because I was really excited to play this deck. And literally every single event that I looked at, I have something going on, and one of them is my wedding day. So like, obviously I'm not going to be going to a regional on my wedding day. I don't think that would be a good idea. But yeah, hopefully everyone enjoyed this. If you did, let me know, and I will obviously see everyone next time. Thanks for watching, guys.